Welcome to the podcast, Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, where it's all about discovering the thoughts that get you in the mood, the thoughts that get you out of the mood, and how creating a deeper connection with yourself creates a deeper connection with your spouse. I'm your coach, Shelly Anderson, coaching you through life, love, and intimacy.
This is episode number 121. Why women don't want to have sex with their husband.
Well, looking at you right now, I'm not sure if I want to have sex with you either.
Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm just like a mogwai.
You're actually pretty cute.
It's funny because I think anyone who grew up in the 80s totally knows what this costume is. But everyone else, like after that, they're like, are you a bunny?
Yeah.
Like they have no idea.
That's because you're so cute. I'm just dressed however I wanted to dress, right? My fashion coach is like, I'm not going to coach you because you usually look so good. No, I'm just kidding.
Handsome.
Well, I decided to wear a funky jacket today. It's my Hugh Hefner smoking jacket, but I'm not Hugh Hefner. I'm just me.
And you're not smoking right now.
Remember to subscribe. Please subscribe, like this episode, and hit the notification bell. We're so grateful to be able to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and also YouTube. And YouTube is one of those things where you get to see us and hear us at the same time. So subscribe, and maybe you'll get to see some of these fun things that we show on video that you can't see when you listen.
Right. Okay, so let's just jump into this topic right away.
Yes.
We're not going to hold back.
I want to know why you don't want to have sex with me.
Well, there are multiple reasons.
Yeah. I've been living with this my whole life, or our whole married life.
So I think most couples go through this, right? Especially when we get clients, they're at this point, right? They are, the desire's not there, the desire's low, and they're not in the mood, and they don't know if they want to be in the mood or how to get in the mood. So
Well, it can be exhausting.
it can be.
And it can be exhausting for men too at a certain point. You know, once we realize that you don't just like snap your fingers
Right.
and she comes running, you got to work it out and you got to figure it out. And it does take diligence, and it takes perseverance and a desire to find balance. And that's what makes marriage great, because as you put that work into it, you will find avenues of joy that you never dreamed were possible.
Yeah. So when we get to kind of some of the things that will help with this, we're going to also talk about how when you know the right solutions, they're not as exhausting, right? It's actually a lot better. So we'll get to that. So I think one of the top reasons women don't want to be intimate with their husbands is they start to feel like they are just the vagina. They are just the legal vagina for their husbands, so that their husbands can say, yes, I am now going to channel all my sexual energy to the wife that I'm married to. And, you know, with everything that comes with that.
Now, can I just say, that's not all negative, because when you say legal vagina, okay, that's a husband who's like, okay, that's the person that I have sex with, meaning assuming that they're not having sex with other people.
Yeah.
They're not having criminal sex.
Right.
And legal also from a moral point of view or religious point of view or spiritual point of view, in that they don't go to Las Vegas and buy legal vagina because prostitution's legal there.
Right.
So being the legal vagina isn't all bad, but there are more negative connotations, and it certainly is on the lower end of the happiness spectrum.
Yes. And I think usually what comes with that, because I actually like what you're bringing up, because I think when I have a client and they do think this way, right, it is with a lot of negative emotions, but they're maybe not thinking about the positives with that. Like their husband has decided to make their commitment to their wife, like a lifelong commitment, like you're the one for me, right? There's a lot of positive thoughts we could have about that, but usually that's not what's happening. It's usually a lot of negative thoughts. And at the core of it is a deeper thought, which is, I'm just being used for sex.
Yeah, and that also may be true, even though the husband isn't having sex with anyone else, right? He's not doing the things that he should do or could do to make it more of a positive experience for his wife.
Yeah, and I think what comes with that too are some other thoughts that will end up supporting this initial thought, which is, oh, my husband doesn't care about the other parts of me like he used to when we were dating. And you see this a lot when you try really hard to be abstinent before marriage.
Right.
And if you can't have sex, like you're doing other things, you're going on dates that are fun, you're spending way more time in conversation. And so there's a shift that takes place once you're married where now sex is okay and you have this green light. So sex kind of takes the front seat and it almost seems to stay there for 40, 50 years unless you kind of have conversations about that. But in that process of the shift, those things that used to be in the forefront, like fun dates and conversations, now take a back seat. And that can feel very harsh, I think, for a lot of women if they don't learn to think about it differently or if they never challenge that.
Now, just a quick plug. This is a quick plug for tantric practices. The Tantra teaches this. It teaches to abstain from the climax for periods of time. It teaches to focus more on the other parts of your partner, not just the vagina and not just the physical, but the entire spiritual realm. Now, this is something that I think all truth is truth. And I find so much truth in these philosophies and especially this Eastern practice of Tantra. So it sounds scary and it sounds weird because we're not used to it in the West. But I'm telling you, you start reading about the Tantra and you'll be like, whoa, this is really cool. And if we could live this way in the West and even in Christianity, I think that it is a beautiful thing and it has helped me a lot as far as thinking about things in more of a holistic way.
Yeah, I love that. I love the concept of approaching intimacy holistically. And I think a lot of women have a natural sense that it is supposed to be that way. So when they start having these thoughts that it's not that way, that feels very counterintuitive to them.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think that along with this concept of that they're just the vagina, they end up also kind of thinking about their husband in really negative ways. Like that's all he cares about now. That's all he thinks about. And so when the husband makes a comment or, I'm a little bit in the mood, or what's that called when you kind of make sexual comments?
Innuendo.
Then a wife may feel like she's being guilt tripped into it or manipulated, or that there's like pressure to perform, and meet every need and desire of her husband.
You know what I say to that? You're just lucky that he's attracted to you. Because he might not be. I'm just kidding. Don't just be that way. But there's another positive to think about.
Right.
At least he's attracted to you. So at least acknowledge that. Like thank goodness he is attracted to me.
Yeah, he's coming for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so another reason why women may not be in the mood to be intimate with their husband is because they view it as another chore. It's on their to-do list, right? Like so many moms have their to-do list and they're usually lengthy throughout the day. Okay, I've got to, get these groceries. I got to make the dinner. I got to decide what is for dinner. I got to think about all that. I got to take my kids here. I got to pick them up. They're coordinating so many things in their mind, usually for other people.
So are these women that have these to-do lists, at the end of the day, it's like, have sex with my husband?
They don't even write it on the list. Like it doesn't even make it on the list, to be honest. Like you're not going to really see too many women write it on their list.
Is that because you're hoping that you don't actually have to do it?
Yes, probably. We don't even want to write it on the list. But in our minds, that's how we view it, as if it were on our to-do list. Like it's something that needs to be done for somebody else. It's almost like there's a separation that's not really for me, it's for my husband. So I'm just writing it down.
Well, this is a business negotiation then. Really, when you're thinking about it this way, you might as well just realize that if you're thinking about it this way, then you're a prostitute.
It's so fascinating. You end up putting yourself in the prostitution role when you look at it this way.
No, I'm not blaming someone for feeling this way when they don't know how to reconcile this or to think past those feelings, because those are very real feelings. And especially for women who have a different type of arousal and desire process than their husband. But you are putting yourself into prostitution negotiation because, hey, who's home doing all the stuff for the kids in the household, going to get groceries, cleaning the house, all this stuff. So basically what the husband is doing is he's paying you to do all this stuff for him and his family, and then he expects you to have sex with him at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's pretty depressing.
It's very depressing.
That is so sad, and we want to do everything we can to help you, any of you that feel this way, to get out of this cycle. Yes. You know what I recommend that you do? Go to shelly.andersoncoaching.com and take the $20 mini course that's on there. And it's not that long. There's a few short lessons that Shelly does, not with me, but just with her. And she goes through some of this thought process that will change your outlook just by going through the mini course.
Yeah, so true. So that's kind of a big one that definitely comes up with my clients, that it's another chore and it's for somebody else. And what that means is that they're not getting a lot out of their own sexual experience.
Right.
And that's also sad. And we can do something about that. Another big reason is just there's a physical aspect of just being tired, exhausted, and stressed.
I thought you were going to talk about his penis is too big.
I rarely get that as one of the main problems.
I don't think you've ever gotten that.
No. But if you think about times in the olden days, right? I hear this a lot, mainly from the husbands who say, I wish we still lived in the 50s because in their mind, they kind of imagine it's their wife just cooking, cleaning, and having sex. Uncomplicated. Like those are your three main jobs as a wife, right? And so I'm like, well, you don't live in the 50s. And
Thank
guess
goodness.
what? I have clients who lived in the 50s and they're mad and they're still angry because it wasn't a good setup.
Again, this is another plug because it doesn't matter how many years you've been married. All of these things that we talk about apply. It doesn't matter how long you've been married, how newly or oldly married you are. And when you say you have clients that lived in the 50s, that's an amazing perspective to hear from somebody who lived during that time. Now, there are good things about the 50s, don't get us wrong, but I think every time period has good and bad. And that was one of the bad things. Women should be more fulfilled than that.
Yeah, they feel like they suffered in silence because they weren't supposed to talk about sex. So here's the thing too, because we don't live in the 50s, because we don't live in caveman times, everyone who's living now, you're meant to live in the time period of now. And because we're no longer in survival mode, right? Like we're not going out every day and foraging for our breakfast and our meals and fighting just to survive predators.
Not currently. We may be in the next, couple years.
But right now we're not doing that.
Right.
We can go to a grocery store and get food to our heart's content. And so what this means for women is we're not meant to just cook and clean in today's age. There is way more for us out there. And because we're here at this time, we are meant to experience more than just cooking, cleaning, and having sex. And so what that means is if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're ready for the top level, which is self-actualization.
Totally.
Which means women are now at a place where those things are already taken care of that are at the bottom of that triangle, and we're ready to reach our full potential.
This is why marriage is so awesome when we think about things as far as both of us individually reaching self-actualization together.
Yes.
Because then your self-actualization is so much more meaningful and so much fuller than someone who's not. And look, if you're single, this applies to you too. Like live your life in a way that is best for you. Okay? Don't prepare yourself to be someone's, slave like we're talking about here, or in bondage in marriage. That is not the way that it should be. But those of us who are listening to this podcast right now, you know that we are huge supporters of marriage and the family. And one of our main goals is to protect the integrity of the family in our society because it is, by design, purposely being destroyed.
Yes.
And we're allowing that to happen because we're not learning and progressing in marriage. We're just staying in the 50s and being upset because we don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, let's take this to the next level, people. Let's take marriage and let's make it the way it's supposed to be. And that is both people being completely fulfilled and working together as a team and ready to take on the world and anything that comes our way. And when we're united like that, and we are both interested in in each of us being completely fulfilled and whole as human beings, that is an amazing place to be. But you can only really do that when you have a partner that's committed to help you to do that. And taking on that yin and yang together, it's a beautiful thing. And I fully believe it. And if you disagree, please comment below. We'd love to hear, your questions and your thoughts.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful thing to be able to sit back and say, like, what's my spouse's journey? How is he going to go through this life and reach those potentials that he believes he can reach, and then be able to have those same questions for yourself. I think it's really awesome. But when we look at a wife who just is like, hey, I'm doing all the things, right? Not only am I cooking and cleaning and having sex, I'm also helping with the homework. I'm running kids to soccer practice and managing all the schedules. They went from maybe 3 main jobs in the 50s, to cook and clean. Now it's everything.
Can I just say this, though? Because maybe in conversations that you've had with your husband, and even before you got married, you talked about timing. Maybe right now in your life, the time is for you to cook and clean and take care of the kids. And your husband's trying to build a career so that you can be supported as a family, right? There's certain roles that we have to acknowledge and to embrace at certain times. But that doesn't mean that this is your whole life, right? Once the kids are grown, maybe you said, okay, well, once the kids are grown, then I want to do this.
Yes.
Or maybe on the weekends, honey, when you're home, you're going to take care of the kids and I'm going to pursue this thing.
Yeah.
Negotiate with your husband. Negotiate with your wife. Don't just settle. See, that's the thing that I think the adversary, and when I say the adversary in my world, that's anything that is stopping me from progressing. And that could be the devil, Satan. That could be myself. It could be other people, trying to take advantage of me. It could be most of the times it's my own thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? These are things that get in our way, and we just decide to settle because of this exhaustion that you're talking about. We are so tired. We don't want to deal with it. We just want to get through it. You know what? Be a little bit of a rebel. And I'm not saying just say, forget it. Don't do that. Do whatever it takes to build yourself up enough so that you will hang in there and stay strong for your family, for yourself, for your husband, and do everything that you can and fight, not just to make it and survive, but fight to thrive, because that's what this world needs, is thriving families.
Yeah. So, I think that there are times and seasons. I like to view, marriage and sometimes the ups and downs as like seasons. And so we can keep that in mind, right? Like this is a season where, we've got toddlers and diapers and, things like that. And that's okay. It's not always going to be like that.
And it's okay to ask your husband to help you. And if they say no, then you know what? Have them give me a call. I'll have a good talk with them.
They need to talk to Nick.
Yeah, they need to talk to me. I'll do it in a loving way.
Okay. So another reason is that it's difficult for women to have a desire to want to be intimate with their husband is that they're not that interested in sex. When you look at just the math, right? I love to do this with clients is say, how often does your husband think about sex on a given day, right? The normal day. And then
sexy math.
And then the wife. Those numbers are usually at opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Where the husband's thinking about it quite often and the woman maybe 0 times a day. So we can see how this can really spiral out of control as we start to horribilize our husband and say, like, that's all he thinks about. Look at these numbers and, what a perv and all this kind of stuff. And we can make him out to be something way more monstrous than he actually is with a normal, healthy desire to have sex with his wife.
And I'm just going to make an assumption, and this is me judging based on some evidence, okay? Most men really don't understand the way a woman works sexually.
That's true.
They don't. And look, I'm still learning. I'm 47. We've been married for over 20 years, and I'm still learning. but I want to learn. I want to learn how to make sex wonderful for my wife. And I'm willing to put my needs aside and to make sure she comes first. No pun intended. Well, that was an intended pun.
That was totally intended.
But here's the thing. Maybe one of the reasons why you're not interested is because you have one of those husbands who doesn't understand how to please you and just wants to have sex, and that's it. No foreplay, no other stimulation of you so that you're not enjoying it. Now, I think even a husband that does understand how to please you, you may still feel this way, right? Because you may not have the same desire that he does, but if you can take that from the physical and add the emotional.
Yes.
And add the experience. Again, take Shelley's The Intimacy Effect, Intimacy Beyond Sex course. That's our much larger course. It's $97. I'm going to plug these courses because this is, just so you know, we don't make any money off of YouTube. We don't make any money off of Spotify. This is all free. But we do this because we want to help people, but it's also a funnel to get people to our courses because that's where the real focus and intense work happens, where you can start to reconcile your life in a way where you understand yourself more and understand your spouse more so that you can improve it. So go to shelley.andersoncoaching.com, go to programs, click on programs, look for The Intimacy Effect, Intimacy Beyond Sex. It's a 6-module course. It's huge, and it's $97. And the reason it's $97 is because it's a huge course, a course that normally would be a lot more than that. But take that course, and you'll learn all kinds of things about yourself, and you can share that with your husband and say, hey, husband, you should watch this part with me because we talk about female arousal, emotional desire, and how it all leads into what we call the intimacy trek, which is this whole journey of arousal, and physical is just part of that. So that's a little plug, but it's very important that we understand that the reason we're not interested might be because we don't understand ourselves, and the fact that we are both, men and women are both built and have the mechanics and have all the things that we need to have incredible sexual experiences. But the thing that I've learned is that the emotional arousal is a huge part of it. And if I ignored that, we'd go back to square one, where we were at times in our marriage where I just wanted you to just want physical arousal just like me.
Yeah.
But now that we've established that in our relationship, I realize how much I need the emotional side as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So I think that a lot of times women are not interested because there's so many elements missing for them in the entire sexual experience. It's that wholeness that they're longing for that is not there. And so it feels incomplete. And so that's why they are losing interest in sex. And another reason that it goes with that is when they have all these things on their plate, right? When it comes time to have sex, there's still so much, they're so in their own mind. They're up in their brain. They're still thinking about their to-do list. They haven't been able to turn their brain off and just allow themselves to enjoy the actual sensations and the pleasure of being intimate with their husband. They're all up in their head. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about me rearranging our house during intimacy, during lovemaking.
Obviously, she was not interested in me in that moment.
I was interested in patterns and colors and seeing things I had seen at the store. But this happens all the time.
What an embarrassing thing for a man, right? In this world. But it happens to all of us.
Yes.
Okay, so for me to admit, look, I'm having sex with my wife and she's not even thinking about me.
Right.
She doesn't even notice me. Right? That's a pretty hard thing to accept. But it's true, and part of it is because I didn't do the work to get her to a place or I didn't do the work to really focus on her.
It's an eye opener.
I didn't focus on you in those moments, and I was just focusing on the sex.
Yeah.
And then it's really easy for you to not focus on me.
Yeah. And so as we learn these things, right, these are the things that are not taught. This is what's never shown in media. That's why most people are just not even aware that things are missing in the entire experience. And so that's why we're not interested. And so if we're mentally going over our to-do list during lovemaking, well, we're not really enjoying it because it's so much harder to get aroused when your mind is focused on what to have for dinner.
Don't you wish that we had a course or something like this to help us, like before we got married?
Which we do now for all the newlyweds.
We actually do have a course for newlyweds again. And I'm plugging this stuff because it's really helpful. But how many of us really never were taught these things? And we talk to, people who have been married 20, 30, 40, 50 years who never learned this stuff.
Yeah.
And if we could help those that are getting married to start their marriages in a way that where they understand each other a lot more and understand this a lot more, what a service that we can be to them. And so, again, we do have a course for that. It's called First Night, First Year, and it's on our website, shelly.andersoncoaching.com.
Yeah. And so I think the reason women have not been and are not currently too interested in making love with their husband is because it has not been very enjoyable for them, because things end up taking too long when you're thinking about your to-do list. And then it's just the pleasure isn't there. And it just goes back to that, oh, this is just another chore. And that mental and emotional connection is missing. So the final one that we wanted to point out for why women don't want to have sex with their husbands is not only are they just not interested, but there's a personal level of mental inner chatter. And this could cover a variety of topics, right? It could just be like, I'm overweight right now, and I'm not going to feel confident in my body, whether the lights are on or off. That is just on their minds about their weight. Or it just could be that there's a comparison taking place, right? Like, oh, I'm not very sexy. I'm not very skilled. I'm never going to live up to porn. He's always going to be not satisfied enough, right? There's all this mental chatter. And if they are having a hard time reaching orgasm and it takes like literally a longer amount of time, that's also going to slow that process down and make them not want to come back for more because they're going to feel like something's wrong with them, that they're not working correctly, that somehow their body is broken and things aren't working as they are supposed to.
And that stress is going to prevent you from being able to climax.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for men to climax when they're stressed than it is for women. And so, again, for men, any men listening to this, I encourage you to learn all you can about your wife to help her so that she's not stressed about these things.
Yeah.
And, like we all have chatter. We all have things that we're insecure about, and those are things you just need to work through. But what an awesome way to work through them is through intimacy with your spouse.
Yeah. It brings it to the forefront.
It brings it to the forefront, and you have somebody you can really work through it with. Isn't that who you should be going to first?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's just talk about a few things that can help, right? Thought work.
Yep.
The self-coaching model, hallelujah for this.
Let me just say this about the self-coaching model. It is an amazing way to even understand spirituality better.
Yes.
It doesn't contradict anything. This is just how we think about things, right? This is like learning how to critically think.
Yes.
There's no difference. It's just it's skill. And when you learn the self-coaching model, you can learn how to understand spirituality and understand the gospel or whatever your religion is. You can understand that and how that can impact your life better too.
Right. And we never look at like walking or riding a bike or reading a book as a negative skill, right? Like,
Right.
oh, if you learn how to read, well, then you won't be spiritual. In fact, reading helps increase our spirituality.
Right.
And so a lot of times people, when they learn about a concept that has to do with how we think about things, a lot of times comes with it this like negative connotation. Well, if I use that, then I don't have faith.
Right.
No,
Not true.
it is not true. It's
People-
just a skill like reading that can actually increase your faith.
Yeah, think about the advantages you have if you know how to read.
Yes.
It makes all the difference in the world. Think about the advantage if you know how to do basic arithmetic or, certain skills. Speaking, like the self-coaching model is one of those things. The people that know this and use it in their lives are so much better off.
Yeah. So much better off.
And they have a tool that can get them through almost anything, right? And I'm not saying that those of you that know us know that we're very spiritual and we're very devout, religious people. And so I know that there are people listening to this is like, oh, well, the Holy Ghost will help me. Okay, that's true. The Holy Ghost will help you. But the Holy Ghost also is going to expect you to do some work and learn some skills, right? Our Heavenly Father, our Savior, whoever you pray to, they want you to do some work because that's the whole point of living in this world is putting some effort in. Okay, so learn the self-coaching model and apply that with the Holy Ghost and with your spiritual understanding. And I promise you, it will help you, right? It's not going to hurt you.
As a game changer. Another thing that will help is to start to mentally have a shift and choose to have a shift in your mindset about sex, not just being a duty, right? But not to say, you know what, I don't want to have sex with my husband because it's a chore. I don't want to do it out of duty. I actually want to do it out of self-discovery.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about myself, this side of myself. I have ignored it for a long time, or I have neglected to embrace it as actually part of my human creation and design. And we can embark on this adventure of saying, I want to discover this side of myself on a deeper level so that I understand myself better.
I have a question for you. As you've gone down this path and you've discovered this for yourself, which I know you've gone down this path yourself, has it improved other parts of your life or just the sexual part?
No, other parts. And I think part of it is because when you learn the self-coaching model and you're able to apply it to the concept of desire and arousal and intimacy and those things, those challenging things, you experience the ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so not only are you improving your sex life on a very deep and personal level, but now you have a tool that you've seen work with the concept of sex, and you can see now that you can use the self-coaching model in all aspects of your life. And so you can start to think about, the comment your neighbor said the other day that was rude. You think about it differently. So now you are experiencing holistically your entire life differently. It's on a higher level. It's an elevated level. And you know what? That level is not as exhausting as the other level when you're just going through the checklist. It's way more efficient and way more effective. And the reason I wanted to pull that point out is because, look, if you're a mom and we have long to-do lists, we want to be efficient and effective. And so I'm telling you, the self-coaching model is highly effective and efficient.
Awesome.
Okay, the last few. One thing that we can do, or another thing we can do that will help us kind of make this shift is that we can start to say, you know what? Maybe sex could be a stress reliever for me. If I actually put myself on the intimacy track and go through it the correct way, when you get to that level of actual arousal, it is a stress reliever because your body physically takes over and you mentally cannot think of your to-do list.
So you start using your husband.
Let's reverse that. We are going to use our husband now.
Man, I feel so used.
is that if we can think about it that way and challenge our natural thoughts that are negative about that and say, well, maybe I could be intimate as a form of relieving some stress. Like that's self-care, that's self-love. You're tuning back into yourself. And then you go to your husband, you connect with him mentally first, then emotionally, and then physically. This is a beautiful thing, but women don't naturally think this way. So we have to choose to challenge ourselves to think about it in this way. Another one is to challenge ourselves to increase our own interest in intimacy. And the way we do this is, I'm just going to throw this number out at you to increase your interest, is that sex is just one of many types of intimacy. And we've talked about this before. There's 24 types of intimacies. So if you even dive into the world of discovering, let's say, financial intimacy or scheduling intimacy.
Scheduling intimacy is my favorite.
Yeah, that's the sexiest, right? Scheduling intimacy and working on your guys' schedules. If you have an interest in one and focus on one, it's naturally going to lead you to feeling closer to your spouse. So it will feel like you want to be intimate from a place of pureness and genuineness. It's very authentic. So increasing your interest in these 23 other intimacies make sexual intimacy more interesting by nature.
It's awesome. Again, back to the intimacy effect, intimacy beyond sex, Shelly.andersoncoaching.com. Go there, look at all of our programs, look at all of our courses. There's something there for you. And if you have a great marriage, there's something there for you too, because we can always learn more. And so stop pretending like you're the master, sex doer.
The sex doer.
Or the most romantic person in the world, right? Like, hey, maybe you are the most romantic man, and maybe you are a very sensual woman, and maybe you have an incredible close relationship with each other where you're connected. There's always more to learn, and there's always more to learn so that you can help other people too, right? It's not just about you. Like we want to, if you have that kind of relationship, then you have a lot of people coming to you asking you questions.
Yeah.
Right? So share your personal experience, but also there's more to learn, and we can help you with that. And again, we're not the end all be all when it comes to all knowledge, right? We know a lot, and we've been through a lot of hard times, and we've been through a lot when it comes to intimacy, but we've also worked really, really hard to get to where we are. And it's taken that kind of work.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it takes that kind of work always. Nothing just happens.
That's true. Well, the last point we wanted to bring up as far as what helps when we don't want to have sex with our husband. And this is one that is always at the bottom of every woman's to-do list, and that is self-care. And this needs to happen. When you can have a day off, man, are you ever recharged? You are ready to go back in. You are ready to reconnect. You're ready to reset your thoughts and your motivations. But self-care has to be taking place. It cannot be neglected. I know that at the times where I haven't gone out with my friends for a while, I feel it. Yeah. And then I'm more angry at you. Not because you're the reason for it, but it's because I neglected to put that social aspect into my schedule.
You know what's interesting, though, is every time you go out with your friends or you have a day of self-care, you come back from that wanting to be with me.
Totally.
Every time.
Yes. It's so true. And
it's awesome.
And we don't realize that that's what happens. We think, it's going to go the opposite way, or we're being selfish, or that won't be the result. It usually is the result.
Yeah. And if it's not, then maybe there's something else going on. Work through it. If that's not the case for you, work through it. Ask the hard questions. Have that conversation with your spouse and discover together what's going on and resolve it together.
Yes. Okay, so any final thoughts as we wrap up? Any final points you want to make?
I'll just say that knowing these things and having the knowledge of how to overcome these challenges is worth more than anything It really is. It's worth more than a house, a car, like all the things that we think are important. There's nothing more important than being connected to your spouse and having the kind of relationship where you can trust each other. And so when we're connected, there's nothing that makes me happier. Nothing. And I know that that has everything to do with our relationship with, the divine also, and our spiritual places, wherever we are individually, but also together. But I can do all things when we're together. Like I feel unstoppable when we're connected.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. The last point I want to make is to just encourage each of you throughout this next week to really ponder on the things that are holding you back from wanting to be intimate with your husband, and to try to incorporate some of the helps that we discussed today and challenge your own thinking. Learn the self-coaching model. And if you don't know those things, really get on our website, see what would work for you. And also, just so you know, coming up soon, we are going to have a monthly membership program that is very, very affordable for both the husband and the wife, where we are going to talk about these things on a deep level every month.
And when you say husband and wife, we're saying one membership is going to be available to the husband and wife without any extra charge for the husband.
Yes.
So one membership is a couple's membership.
Yes, so true and so good. So just know that that's coming, and we'll be able to discuss all these things in depth, taking one focus each month so we can really dive into it. So remember, the more that you restore this type of intimacy with yourself, the more that you restore it with your spouse. Thank you so much for listening today, and we hope you will join us again next week. Happy Halloween.